Alright, my dudes, on today's episode, we're going to do a installation tutorial for the VIBS board for the AtGames Legends Pinball Micro. Now, inside of the box, you're going to find an awesome instruction manual. You could follow that or watch this video. I'll go through everything step by step. You're also going to find a splitter cable right here, as well as a DC cable in order to power the VIBS board. I'll show you how to get all this mounted. Also, you're going to find your input switch button, a Microswitch, and button wire. Again, I'll show you how to get all this set up inside your system. You're going to have 4 mounting screws. Do not lose these. These are the screws we're going to need to mount the board inside the back box. And sure enough, inside of an electrostatic discharge-free bag, we have our VIBS board. Alright, let's get this bad boy installed. Step number 1 is going to be to take a Phillips head screwdriver and remove the 4 screws and the back panel from your back box. New customers might say, well, why do I need this thing? Well, that's because, as you can see here, looking at the monitor inside of the back box, there's no HDMI signal. So if you wanted to play your own pinball games on this device, you're gonna have to get this device installed in order to have that HDMI signal in the back box to run to your PC. Okay, step number 2, we're gonna disconnect the LVDS cable from this little green board inside of the back box. Should take a little bit of finesse, just give it a tug. It should pop right out. Don't try to rip it out violently and damage the cables or connectors. Okay, step number 3 is to disconnect the FPC cable from that exact same board. On the right-hand side of the plug where it's put in there, you'll notice there's a little black piece. That little black piece is a locking mechanism that holds this cable in. All you have to do is very carefully flip that up into a vertical position because, you know, stock out of the box, it's pressed flat, holding that cable into that port. All you have to do is very carefully flip that black thing up and your cable will end up being loose. I went ahead and I took the tape and I put this thing over here. That way it's out of the way so we can mount the VIBS board. Okay, for step number 4, we're going to mount the VIBS board. There's 4 pegs already molded into the back panel, which is great by AtGames to help us get a clean install. You're going to simply use the 4 screws that came with your VIBS board, and you're going to screw the board into those 4 pegs, as you can see right here. Also, make sure your board is in the exact same position that you see here. Once it's screwed in, you're going to go ahead and take that FPC cable and plug it into this port. And once you get it snug in there, be very careful. You don't want to damage this cable in any way, shape, or form. All you have to do is push down on that locking mechanism and make sure that's nice and flat, and it will secure and hold the FPC cable in place, making sure you have a good connection. After that particular cable's plugged in, now it's time to plug in our LVDS cable. When connecting your LVDS cable, make sure that you have it lined up correctly so you don't fry your board or have any issues or break or damage anything, etc. Make sure that the fat batch of red cables is on the bottom, the blue and white wires are on the middle, and just the red and black wires, the single wires, are on top, and you should be able to get it lined up and plugged in correctly. It's imperative that you plug this in the correct direction. For step number 5, we just need to connect our DC cable. That's right, this is the cable that came with the VIBS board kit. We're going to plug this into the DC cable port that's on the VIBS board. That way, the VIBS board and the back box will receive power when you turn on the unit. The port's right there. Just go ahead and plug that in, and you're done with that step. Easy peasy. Once that's completed, you're going to go ahead now, and whatever cable you're going to use to run to your PC for the back box display, go ahead and plug that HDMI cable into the HDMI port located directly above the DC port, because again, we're going to close up the back box. We don't want to leave this open. Okay, step number 6 is installing the input switch button onto the pre-cut out hole on your back box. Really nice that AtGames had this set up for us. Make sure you have it mounted on the correct direction. If you see a sticker on this side, you have it backwards, flip it over. Make sure you mount this in the correct direction. So we're going to make sure that the back end of the button is on this side of the board where there's no sticker. You see the sticker right there underneath the button. Go ahead and just screw it on. Step number 7 is going to be connecting the Microswitch as well as this cable that came with your kit to the button. The Microswitch itself will fit right on the button. All you have to do is line up the holes and it'll pop right in there. And then go ahead and connect the wires exactly like shown. Go ahead and put your black wire at the top, and then your red and black wire there in the middle, and you're ready to plug this into the VIBS board. Easy peasy. Okay, step number 8, you have a back panel with a button, a microswitch, and a wire sticking out of it, and next to that circle hole is a square hole. You're going to run your HDMI cable through there, as well as that DC power cable through that square hole. Once you have those cables put through that square hole, go ahead and connect the opposite end of the button wire to this particular port near the top of the board with how it's mounted, and now you'll be able to get this mounted and screwed into the back panel. That way when you're done, you'll see it looks like this. We have our HDMI cable and our DC power cable coming out of the pre-cut out square hole. We have our button already plugged in. Everything is ready to go. What we need to do now is grab this DC power splitter and plug this into the power port on the back of the pinball machine. So we're just going to take this, find the little DC power port right next to the power switch, and we're going to plug that in right at the bottom there. And for that horizontal port, I'm going to plug in the main power supply cable and power brick that came with the Legends Pinball Micro. At this point, you can go ahead and power on the unit. You'll notice that all your screens should come on to run your stock games. And at this point, you can plug in an HDMI cable to that HDMI port that's on the left right there on the bottom, as well as another HDMI cable into your PC or whatever devices you're going to use to bring your own pinball. And I went to the HDMI pinball settings, launched HDMI pinball, as well as hit the back glass button that we installed on the back of the back box. As you can see, my desktop extension is showing on the back glass, as well as I do have the, for this case, I have the Pinball FX3, just need to enter my cabinet code and get everything set up. I will have separate videos showing you how to get VPX as well as FX3 and stuff running on this device, but I figured let's just do the install part 1. We'll get to the rest in parts 2 and 3. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up on the way out, leave your comments and feedback below, and as always, my dudes, thank you for subscribing.